Okay, I'm with Sam Ramji, VP of Strategy at Apigee. How you doing, Sam?
Doing great.
We're here at the, I guess it's still the lunch break of day 2 at Glue.
Yes.
And you gave a great talk yesterday on at the sort of near the end of day 1,
Yeah.
architecting for performance in the face of mobile and APIs.
That's right.
I thought it was really great. Give us a little sort of a summary of what it was you talked about and what your purpose was with this particular presentation.
Well, I had a couple purposes. One was to be fun and engaging, so I got to have a little bit more fun than just talk about performance. I talked about skeuomorphs, databases, and mobile performance. So I kind of compared a little bit of Greek architecture and how that sort of bled into American architecture, how it went from wood to stone to concrete, and some of the mistakes that were made in the process, generally called skeuomorphs. And then I asked the audience's permission to allow me to make a metaphor, which was that APIs have turned the internet into a database. And in our new era of mobile applications, we're no longer running mobile apps just on the device. They're not even just on one device. They run on many devices. So where is your data? Well,
Yeah.
it's all over the internet. Even if you have your own private data store, you've got lots and lots of third-party providers which are acting as a database. So the question I posed is, what can we learn from the client-server era of computing about how to improve performance? Because there's so much bad performance on mobile apps today. So we kind of broke it down into 3 basic lessons. What did we learn from client-server? Number 1, how can you make the app smarter? Right? Make it cache more effectively, make better use of the network. Right? Second one, use the network intelligently. Understanding that mobile apps aren't on a wireline. All of your expectations about a low latency, high bandwidth environment are gone. Right? You've got all sorts of issues in just making the radio connection from your device.
That was fascinating.
How the power mode of the radio switches up and down, how much power you can waste, and battery performance should be part of your thinking about app performance.
Yep.
And then the third piece was around how you optimize the database. And so what I offered there was sort of maybe a little bit of a radical perspective, but it's a pattern that I keep seeing on building a stored procedure layer in the internet for the internet database. So people are writing Ruby code, they're writing JavaScript code, they're writing Django, right, whatever, to be able to organize and stitch together all the different calls they have to make. One of the big problems people have is, if I want to get the 10 last tweets of my 10 best friends on Twitter, that's at least 12 different network calls, not including authentication. And if you're making all of those from your mobile device over the wireless network, you're going to be in hell.
Yep.
What you can do is you can create sort of a stored procedure for yourself, out running in the cloud, running in Heroku, running in Windows, Azure, or whatever, that can then execute all those calls very quickly, where they are on a low latency, high bandwidth network with lots of compute power.
Yeah.
Then that stored procedure can turn around back to your application, give you exactly the data that you want, formatted the way that you need it.
Sure.
So this is basically the 3 pieces of how we can learn from client server, and hopefully it'll be useful in helping mobile developers question assumptions and maybe just have a better laundry list of things to ask themselves, like, did I do that? Did I do that? Did I do that? So we can have better apps.
I know you talked about API pipelining too, right? That was an interesting
for whatever
point.
reason, there's still a lot of HTTP 1.0 behavior when people are making API requests. They're just chunking them in serial.
Yeah, in serial.
Even if you've got incredible response time, let's say 200 milliseconds on every call.
Yeah.
You make 5 calls, it's still a full second.
Yeah.
But HTTP pipelining is built into 1.1, which is implemented everywhere, allowing all of these calls to be made in roughly in parallel. Means you can take maybe a quarter of a second to get those 5 calls returned.
Yeah.
So there's just thinking about the fact that you are dealing with this different network. Makes you write better apps. The last thing I did is I made a call to action, which is that there's this amazing community that's shown up in the API Craft Google group.
Yes.
About 1,000 people now, keeps growing by leaps and bounds, asking really tough questions about, in this API-centric development model, in mobile, in API data serving, what do we need to learn? So we're all learning from each other. So that's
beautiful.
groups.google.com/group/API.
Yeah, I'll post that link. I tweeted it yesterday, and I think I have a photo with that link on my Flickr set too. So we'll make sure that gets out there, because these mobile developers have to know this stuff,
And we have to help each other.
They really, and then like you say, they need to take responsibility for the performance of their apps. And well, great, good seeing you again, Sam, and all the best with Apigee.
Great.
Okay.